Fairbanks, there have to be a lot of thought put into our portability because if you have to tear a wash plant down and take days to tear something down to move it from site to site, it's going to have a pretty big effect on the operation.
Parker Schnabel's dreams of a $25 million gold season exploded when his giant wash plant, Big Red, violently self-destructed. Yet somehow, out of that mechanical nightmare, whispers of a stunning $16 million haul began to surface. But how and what unbelievable risks did he take to even sniff that kind of gold again? Let's fire up the engines and see if Parker can pull off the impossible, or if Big Red's death rattle was the final nail in his season's coffin. The red giant crumbles. As the days grew shorter and the first whispers of the deadly Yukon freeze began to haunt the air, Parker Schnabel found himself in a tight spot. He was a young mining prodigy, the kid who had consistently pulled more gold out of the Klondike than miners twice his age. But this season at his massive Dominion Creek claim was testing him like never before. His goal was a staggering $25 million worth of gold. Some fans online were already calling it overly ambitious, even for Parker, saying he was setting himself up for a fall. Others, the true believers, were convinced if anyone could hit that kind of number, it was him. But the hard truth was, despite a monumental effort, he was falling behind. The pressure was immense, a heavy weight on his young shoulders.
I don't like renting wash plants or borrowing wash plants. They take a beating and they take a lot of maintenance, and it's never worked out well when I've seen them get leased to other people.
His crew was currently sluicing their way through a 15-foot thick layer of reddish-looking gravel. It was decent pay, averaging about half an ounce of gold for every 100 yards of dirt they processed. That's not bad, but it wasn't the jackpot Parker needed to catch up. The real prize, the stuff of Klondike legends, lay deeper. A layer of white channel pay dirt that they believed could hold 4 times more gold, maybe even more. That white channel was their ace in the hole, the key to salvaging the season and hitting that eye-watering $25 million target. The workhorse of this whole operation, the machine responsible for gobbling up tons of pay dirt and separating out the precious gold, was Parker's giant wash plant, affectionately nicknamed Big Red. For 5 relentless months, Big Red had been shaking and rattling, tirelessly processing earth day in and day out. It was the heart of his Dominion Creek mine site. But the non-stop, brutal workload had taken its toll.
Ready for water?
Yeah.
Let's do it. Water coming your way.
Then the unthinkable happened. Disaster struck without warning. Big Red, the cornerstone of his multi-million-dollar dream, began to shake violently. Not its usual rhythmic processing shudder, but a destructive, out-of-control vibration. And then, with a series of sickening crunches and groans of tortured metal, it literally shook itself apart. Vital components ripped loose, the frame buckled, and the mighty wash plant fell silent, a broken giant amidst the pay dirt it was supposed to be conquering. Parker and his crew could only stare in disbelief and horror. This wasn't a simple breakdown that could be patched up with some quick welding. This was catastrophic. Big Red would need a complete time-consuming rebuild. The implications hit Parker like a physical blow. His primary gold-collecting machine was out of commission. And the worst part? They couldn't access or process that incredibly rich white channel pay they were banking on, the very pay dirt that was supposed to save their season.
Oh yeah, we got some water now. Hopefully second time's a charm here. Come on, baby, how's she hitting?
It was just sitting there, tons of it, packed with gold, but now it was completely out of reach. Winter was closing in fast. Every day of downtime was thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of dollars in gold lost forever. The season looked like it might be over. Some fans watching probably thought this was it, the moment Parker's aggressive expansion and hard driving finally caught up with him. There's always a chorus online from some viewers who feel Parker pushes his equipment and his crew way too hard, always chasing those headline-grabbing numbers. And that breakdowns like this are inevitable. Others jump to his defense, arguing that gold mining in the Yukon is brutal, and equipment failure is just part of the game, admiring his relentless drive to succeed against the odds. The debate rages with every mechanical failure, bad luck, harsh conditions, Or a boss pushing too close to the edge? The silence where Big Red's roar used to be was deafening. Parker's $25 million goal, and even the more immediate need to bank thousands more ounces before the freeze, seemed to be turning into an icy Yukon pipe dream. He needed a plan, and he needed it yesterday. With Big Red in pieces and the season bleeding away, Parker had to pull a rabbit out of his hat, or his Dominion Creek dream would be buried under the snow, along with millions in gold. Resurrection of a relic. The air at Dominion Creek was thick with despair. Big Red, Parker Schnabel's #1 gold getter, was a mangled wreck. The crew was stunned. That rich, white channel pay dirt, loaded with gold, was so close they could almost taste it. But now it was untouchable. For many mining bosses, a disaster of this scale, this late in the season, would mean throwing in the towel, cutting their losses, and hoping for better luck next year. But Parker Schnabel isn't like most mining bosses. Some fans call it stubbornness, a refusal to accept defeat that sometimes borders on obsession. Others see it as the mark of a true champion, an unshakable determination to find a way, any way, to win, even when the odds are stacked impossibly high.
That's not a good thing. All that water coming out, well, it means erosion. The last thing we want is this wash plant pad.
Parker's mind was racing. He couldn't just sit there and watch his season die. He needed another wash plant, and he needed it now. Then he remembered Wash Plant Bob. Bob was an ancient piece of mining history, a wash plant built way back in the 1960s. It was a beast of a machine in its own right, with a powerful V12 engine and a rugged 6-wheel drive system designed to conquer the rough Yukon terrain. But Bob had been sitting idle, forgotten in a corner of one of Parker's other claims, for 3 long weeks. It was old, it was clunky, and getting it moved and running again would be a monumental task. Many on social media were probably already second-guessing, with some fans likely thinking, "An ancient machine? Is he serious? That thing will break down before it washes a yard of dirt." While others, perhaps older viewers who appreciate vintage iron, might have been rooting for the old relic to make a comeback, Parker made the call. Wash Plant Bob had to be moved from its resting place, hauled over treacherous mountain roads to Dominion Creek, and be up and running, sluicing for gold by the end of that very day. It was an insane demand. Moving a machine of that size and age, with its delicate and potentially brittle parts, was a logistical nightmare. The roads were steep, narrow, and unforgiving. One wrong turn, one slip, and Wash Plant Bob could end up a crumpled heap at the bottom of a ravine, taking Parker's last hope with it. The crew, though probably exhausted and disheartened by Big Red's demise, snapped into action. This is where you often see the loyalty Parker commands, a point many fans highlight. His crew will go to incredible lengths for him, even when the plans seem impossible. They had to carefully navigate this 6-wheel drive behemoth, this 60-year-old giant, through some of the toughest terrain the Yukon has to offer. Every bump, every steep incline, every tight corner was a heart-stopping moment. The V12 engine of Wash Plant Bob probably roared and sputtered, a sound not heard for weeks, as it clawed its way towards Dominion.
We're just gonna fire this plant up and see if it works. We got water, which is good. And we got a screen that shakes, which is good.
There's a certain romance to seeing these old machines fired up, and many viewers love these kinds of desperate, ingenious fixes that are so common on Gold Rush. It's that use what you've got, never give up spirit. Now, for most small-time miners, a $250,000 cleanup would be a reason to break out the champagne. It would be a game changer, the kind of result that turns a rough season into a profitable one. And let's be clear, 96 ounces of gold is nothing to scoff at. After all the chaos, the setbacks, and the heartache of losing Big Red, that gold was a beacon of hope. It was proof that gold was still in the ground, and their nonstop hustle wasn't for nothing. For the crew, it was a much-needed morale boost. For fans watching from home, it felt like a redemption arc. See? Parker always finds a way. Oh, they'd say. The kid never gives up. But Parker Schnabel isn't most miners. He's not chasing small victories. With a $25 million goal set for the season, and the ghost of Big Red still looming large, this haul was just the beginning. 96 ounces? That was the appetizer. Sure, it proved that their backup plan wasn't a complete failure.
Thanks for getting this done. It's a nice setup. I like the plan. And there's always going to be a few quirks to work out, but I like it so far.
That Wash Plan Bob could actually catch gold. But it wasn't the gold rush Parker was chasing. Not even close. The real treasure, the one that could truly flip the script on this season, was still buried deeper down in the White Channel pay. That's the dirt that had everyone whispering. Richer, older, untouched for years. According to their research, it was 4 times richer than the red gravel they just run through. That white pay could change everything. And now all eyes turned to Wash Plant Bob. This wasn't just about squeezing a few more ounces out of the dirt. This was about Parker's entire season, his reputation, his legacy. After all, the man has made a name for himself by taking big risks and turning them into even bigger wins. But this time, the stakes felt different. The entire operation now rested on a machine that was more than half a century old, barely brought back to life in time. Wash Plant Bob was never built to be the hero of a modern-day gold mining operation. But here it was, with its 60-year-old steel frame, groaning and rattling, stepping into the spotlight. The $250,000 cleanup gave them a bit of breathing room. But it was the White Channel that would make or break them. That was the gold that could push them back toward the season's massive goals. Goals that now felt miles away. Wash Plant Bob had to perform. It had to run hard, run clean, and not fall apart under pressure. Because if it failed now, Parker wouldn't just lose money, he could lose everything he'd worked so hard to build.
Probably need to pull the whole tray out, though.
Pull it all out, clean all this, set it. Just a little bit of dirt to hold it. We'll rebed that.
As the team stared down this new challenge, the tension was real. Wash Plant Bob was operational, barely. The crew had already seen it spit out some gold, but that was from the red gravel. Now the real test began. Could it keep going? Could it handle the thick, heavy material in the White Channel without jamming up or breaking down? Could it move enough pay fast enough to beat the clock before the Yukon freeze rolled in and shut the whole season down? These weren't small questions, and fans knew it. The comments were already flying online. Some people were all in on Parker and his underdog machine. Others were ready to call it. Another bold move doomed to fail. But that's what makes Parker's story so compelling. He lives in that space between glory and disaster, between making millions and watching it all slip away. With time running out and weather closing in, the next few weeks would be critical. Every bucket of dirt mattered. Every hour that Wash Plant Bob ran without breaking was a victory. Parker wasn't aiming for a lucky break. He was counting on grit, strategy, and sheer willpower. And maybe, just maybe, this forgotten old machine could pull off one of the most unexpected comebacks in Gold Rush history. Fan forums likely lit up during this period. Skeptics would point to Bob's age, predicting constant breakdowns when faced with the tougher White Channel material. Supporters would be championing Parker's ingenuity and his crew's tireless work ethic. Gold Rush thrives on this tension, showcasing the minute-by-minute problem-solving. Perhaps the White Channel's clay content was blinding the screens, forcing frequent, time-consuming cleanouts. Or maybe its density required them to add more aggressive spray bars or even modify the drum's internal lifters to ensure proper agitation and washing. These on-the-fly modifications, often involving bush welding and creative engineering, are a staple of the show, demonstrating the resourcefulness needed to survive in the Klondike. To even approach a figure like $16 million, Wash Plant Bob couldn't just perform, it had to become a gold-spitting monster, running almost continuously.
310.45.
Yeah, Big Red, finishing strong.
Now how about this new wash plant, Roxanne?
This meant Parker was likely pushing his crew in grueling shifts day and night under the cold Yukon sky. The excavators would be feeding Bob relentlessly, a constant stream of that precious white pay dirt. An unknown fact regarding such intensive operations is the sheer logistics involved. Ensuring enough fuel for all the machines in a remote location, managing water resources for the wash plant, a critical and often problematic element, and dealing with the ever-growing piles of tailings, all while racing the clock. The gold weigh-ins from the White Channel, meticulously documented by the Gold Rush cameras, would have become the dramatic pulse of the operation. Each weigh-in, heavier than the last, would chip away at the doubt, fueling their drive. Imagine the scenes. Parker, under the harsh lights of the gold room, pouring out bag after bag of gold, the numbers on the scale climbing, 50 ounces, 100 ounces, then even larger single cleanups as they hit the heart of the pay streak with their optimized relic. It wouldn't have been easy. Breakdowns of the old plant were inevitable. Each time wash plant Bob sputtered or a belt snapped, the tension would skyrocket, the crew scrambling to patch it up, knowing every lost hour was gold they couldn't get back. Reaching a $16 million haul with a backup wash plant, especially one of Bob's vintage, is nothing short of miraculous in gold mining terms. It speaks to several factors: the incredible richness of the White Channel pay dirt at Dominion Creek, Parker's uncanny ability to find and exploit such ground, and the sheer, unyielding determination of his crew. It also suggests that for a significant period, they managed to keep Wash Plant Bob running at a surprisingly high capacity, a testament to their mechanical skills and Parker's relentless pressure to optimize. This wasn't just about replacing Big Red. It was about making an old dog perform feats it was never designed for. And in doing so, Parker didn't just salvage his season from the brink of disaster. He crafted one of the most compelling comeback stories in Gold Rush history, proving that sometimes with enough grit and a touch of inspired madness, even forgotten relics can unearth a king's ransom. Did Wash Plant Bob become the unlikely hero of Parker's season and deliver those millions? Or was this just a band-aid on a season-ending wound? Hit like, subscribe, and tell us if you think Parker's old-school gamble was genius or just plain crazy.